Hi, Lindsay Moss here with another episode of 123 ART hosted by the Art of Education University. This is going to be our mailbag episode. So we have solicited questions on Facebook. We're expecting this to be a really different fall, right? Because a lot of our entering artists did not have the benefit of in-person preschool or educational childcare. So there's going to be different challenges than we've ever had before. So let's talk about some of the common questions that we saw when we put this post up on Facebook. The first one was, what is a developmentally appropriate amount of time for a kindergarten class? Man, this is tough. In my district, kindergarten art is 25 minutes long, which is kind of a good amount of time for them. But the thing you have to remember is that developmentally, they are not really able to attend or have an attention span on a particular activity for more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes, even if they're really into it. So in my classes, I like to really chunk what I'm doing. So that includes offering a bunch of different activities to kind of change things up, keep their engagement, and keep their interest. So examples of this would be like a movement break, showing a clip or video on my overhead. It could be reading a story aloud from my library of art books in my classroom. It could be using a puppet. It could be doing a demo, and of course, art making. Also, I like to break it up with sketchbook time. So in the comments below, I'd love to hear about some of the things you do to chunk your art classes into 5 or 10-minute segments for your kindergartners. What are some of the bells and whistles and different types of activities that you use with them? So another super common question that we were seeing on Facebook was about large classroom size and what do you do when you just have a ton of kindergartners all at once? Now that is really tricky, right? Because more kindergartners equals more kids who need one-on-one support or adult intervention, right? And sometimes you really feel outnumbered. So my suggestion would be to get additional support. Now there are some districts who are really blessed and they're able to get paraprofessionals to come in and help with large class sizes. If that's you, good on you. But for the rest of us, a really reasonable thing to do is solicit parent or community volunteers. A lot of kindergarten parents are really excited because it's the first time their student has ever been to school and they're looking for ways to get involved and kind of feel like they're a part of the school community. So sending out a letter or an email that asks for parents to volunteer on the kindergarten art day, you'll get some takers because art class sounds like a fun and easy way for a parent to come in and spend part of the morning at school with their student. Now, if you're not comfortable with parent volunteers, or maybe that's not a reality, parent support is not high in your community, I would look for some other ways to bring in outside assistance. And some great ways to do that are to look at neighboring universities or colleges that might have teacher preparatory programs. Those students are always looking for hours towards their certificate. So if you make it known that you would love university volunteers looking for early childhood hours to come into your art room, you might get some takers. And another surprising location I've gotten volunteers from is my local high school. So if your local high school has a flexible schedule, block scheduling, some type of work study program, they might be interested in loaning you a student, right? There's all kinds of reasons that high school kids want volunteer hours and reasons why their guidance counselor might allow them to come into your classroom to do just that. An added benefit is that they're kind of heroes to the little kids in kindergarten and first grade when they show up for each art class to help out. So the next question we have seen a lot, and this is one that I struggle with as an art teacher, is how fast kindergartners work, right? In their minds, you should begin and finish a project in the same class period, but we as art teachers want to take time for ideation and planning and all these other steps, right? But our kindergartners want to be one and done in like under 10 minutes. So how do you slow them down? Kellyanne Hawks Wilson on Facebook had the exact same advice I was going to give you. It's that you need to create an expectation with your students that projects take more than one day. And how do you explain that in a developmentally appropriate way? I would say beginning, middle, and end, or appetizer, dinner, dessert. And so then you can tell them right when they come in the art room, today is an appetizer day. We're gonna be learning about the artist and making a plan, right? And then next time when it's dinner day, we're gonna spend all our time working. And on dessert day, we're gonna wrap it up and have a really fun critique. And if you explain that in a sequence that they're used to that has 3 parts, all of a sudden you're a lot more successful in stretching a project over a longer amount of time because you're using a chunk or a period of time that kids understand. Now, a narrative element like beginning, middle, and end might be really loved by your reading and instructional coaches at your school, but I find that appetizer, dinner, dessert really reaches a lot of kids. So on to the next question, names on the artwork. Now, this is really a problem more at the start of the school year, and it's actually such a big challenge and problem that we devoted a whole episode to it. If you missed our previous video about this, make sure you go back and watch because we go into greater depth. My advice would be, number 1, don't panic. The name issue is really over in a matter of weeks because fabulous classroom teachers eventually teach them how to do that. But if you have a lot of kids at the start of the year that can't write their names, some great ideas are mailing labels with their names typed on it, pre-printed pieces of paper with their names that they can glue on, or maybe pieces of masking tape. The next question that came up was bathroom breaks. And yeah, this is gonna happen, particularly at the start of school, because a lot of students are not used to holding it. They're at home and they can go whenever they want. And most of them weren't in-person preschool where they got used to sort of the rhythm of a bathroom break. So what can you do? Well, number 1, I probably wouldn't say no, right? You may have an accident on your hands, but the downside to that is when one kid goes to the bathroom, it looks sort of like a novel, interesting thing to other kids, and they all want to go. So here's what I'm going to recommend. I know it takes a lot of time, but I really think, don't laugh, I think that a bathroom tour should be part of your first day in art class. Now, humor me here. A lot of our youngest artists are not used to navigating the building from a new location, not their classroom. So they may really not be able to go from your room to the bathroom and back because they know how to get places from their classroom, but maybe not the art room. It's a new setting. So I like to take everybody up, walk them down, show them where the bathroom is, and then walk them back. If anybody has to go, they can go ahead and go while we're down there. Yeah, honestly, it does eat up about a third or a half of my first class, but I don't have accidents, and I find it makes things go smoother. That investment of time on the bathroom tour saves time in the long run for my students. Another thing that I do is try to have a really positive relationship with all the teachers in my building because I'm going to call in a favor. I'm going to ask that they schedule a bathroom break before they come to art. Actually, all specials. Because we have an abbreviated art time for kindergarten, I want to make sure that it doesn't get eaten up every time with that bathroom break, right? So I'm going to ask those teachers as school progresses to go ahead and make sure that their kiddos use the bathroom before they come to class. And the final question that we were hearing is what to do about a loss of fine motor skills. And this is kind of a question that I was seeing online pre-pandemic too, just that kids are so digitally motivated that they're losing some of those fine motor skills that they used to have at a younger age. So how do you encourage that in a classroom? Well, once again, we had some earlier videos that you should definitely go back and check, an episode all about pincher grasp. But what can you do to help fine motor overall in your classroom? Well, I would recommend activities like weaving that use yarn, and especially with our younger students like kindergartners and first graders, I'm a big fan of weaving cards. They can create a drawing and then you can use a long range hole punch to punch holes in it, and then they can use pieces of yarn going in and out to weave sort of the perimeter of their drawing. You can of course purchase weaving cards too, but it's way more fun to make your own. Another great way to practice fine motor skills is by threading things. Now you may have seen in earlier episodes, I had some fun students who were threading things on a pipe cleaner because it's a little more stable. So it's an easier material to use for first threading activities. But of course you could graduate to yarn or thread. What can they thread? Well, cut up straws, beads, pieces of pasta, basically anything with a hole in the middle, and that really helps them with their fine motor control. We talked in another episode also about paper tearing. Torn paper collage is a great lesson choice for people who are really struggling with fine motor skills. It can be frustrating at first, but once they really learn to tear, it's kind of a tough skill because it uses both hands. It really helps improve their fine motor skills overall. Last but not least, don't forget about Play-Doh. Kids love having sculptural experiences in art, and Play-Doh really uses their hands in unique ways that drawing may not. I like to keep a lot of bins of the tiny party favor size Play-Doh in my art room to use for early finishers. My kids love to do that. So these were the questions that we saw most often, but let's keep the dialogue going. If you've got kindergarten questions, let's put them in the comment below and we can all answer each other, and as a group try to improve our professional practice for these younger learners this fall. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and we don't want you to miss any tips or tricks that might be helpful in your professional practice. Thanks for joining me.